with people I know from really across the nation. And I had a conversation just this week about an alpha female. And that term can be charged. It can mean a lot of things. And so I had this conversation over Skype with the author of this book called Alpha Females, From the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And she talks about the different qualities, the different traits, and really why she wrote the book. So I want to share our conversation with you. Listen up. And so when people hear the term alpha female, I think it's not necessarily something positive, that women want to associate themselves with, but they know that it is essential to the core of who they are. So when you hear alpha females, what do you think?
So, I sum it up in 3 words. It's the 3 words I use in the book. They're beauty, power, and soul. And that sums them up, just plain and simple, because they don't have to be the prettiest woman in the room, but their beauty radiates from within. So they command that attention as soon as they walk in. They definitely have the power, this unbridled power that people cannot harness, and they know it. And then it is the passion and the fire of purpose in their soul. That's the first thing I think of when I think of an alpha female. And it's the chick that you can't mess with any day, on any given day of the week, not even twice on Sundays, Not
even twice on Sundays. She ain't the one.
She's not the one.
And this work that I'm speaking of, it came together in a book.
Correct.
When I say the author, so the name of the book, it is called Alpha Females, Unleashed from the Bedroom to the Boardroom. And in this book, you cover the gamut. It's not just talking about the boardroom. It's not just talking about the bedroom, but you picked out examples of women and girls who exhibit these traits of an alpha woman. And just to kind of clear the air, so when I hear alpha female, I wrote down a couple things. I always hear always leading, in charge, your classic corporate bitch. She's not low-key at all. She's controlling. I put overtly sexual. And I'm not saying I believe all this, but I feel like when I have my friends and they talk about, I'm an alpha female, this is a part of their definition. They're very nonchalant, like this is who I am, deal with it type of woman. Very non-caring emotions. When it comes to emotions, it's almost as though they're non-existent, or she knows where to put them, when and where. And also, when she enters the room, it's spoken, like she lets the world know, or she lets the room know that she's there. Is that true?
Absolutely. So, I mean, you picked on some great nuggets here, and this is why the book was actually done, to actually dispel some of the myths, but also to confirm some of the other myths that's out there. And so the alpha female term that's being used a lot now, to me, has been totally cliche, and it's kind of been watered down. It's almost like a fad. And that's another reason why it was addressed this way. The thing of it is that she will, and I'm not sure how much I can say on this show, blatant. So
let it go. Don't cuss.
Okay, don't cuss. Okay, so can't cuss. Okay, so for that, when you say the B word, and someone described it very well to me. You're right. When she walks into the room, she doesn't have to say anything, but basically the self-confidence that she has within is like, bitchs, I'm here. I own this. And it's not an arrogant side. It's just who she is. Now, I will say that those that have to state that I'm an alpha female 24/7 aren't alpha females, because they're not going to say it. They're not going to say it. They don't have to say it because it automatically shows.
And do you think that most, and I think this is probably a part of the reason why you started this work, but do you think most alpha females know that they're alpha females?
I believe they may not know what to call in the beginning, and again, it goes back to when they recognize it, right? The book addresses it, and you talked about it, from the boardroom to the bedroom. So the book is done in a way to speak to the audiences and it takes her from when she's born to all the way through even the dark sides of her life. And the reason why is because these women inherently may realize at some point in their stage that they're different. Their parents are going to realize that they're different. They just don't know exactly what to call it. Right. And so it was giving them to say, here's what this really is called, because it's called everything else but that.
Do you think that because I know I don't like labels, and because I feel like it puts someone in a box. So why do you feel that the alpha female label was necessary? Because to me can also produce division amongst women. Like I'm alpha, you beta, and so on and so forth.
Right. So in every species, even with the men, there's alpha male. So here's what's interesting. It's okay for, and people have claimed the alpha male, and society has been okay with that for years. And has never been that dissension between men. So why should it be between women, right? The reason why this label or this term, I would say, was brought about was because they weren't recognized as such. They, back in the, I would say the dark ages, they were known as witches. They were known as being crazy. They were known as being, just something that was out of the norm. They weren't feminine. They weren't these things, and people didn't understand. So people are always trying to put labels on others, and it was depicted, and it still is, so poorly in media, movies, television, books, to the point where I said, okay, after recognizing there's patterns among specific types of women, it's time to put this thing to rest. And what I started realizing is that this conversation was being had underground. It's now just bringing it to the forefront and say, if you're going to call her name, at least call her correctly of what she is.
And just to be clear, you're not speaking from just your experience. You've worked in corporate America. You've worked heavily in heavily male-dominated sector. But also with this work, you've interviewed close to 100 women to come to some of these conclusions. You have put years of work into this. So this isn't just something that you're pulling out of your pocket.
Oh, absolutely not. So this book, it was men and women of every race, creed, and color, every religion, every walk of life, every status, every sexual orientation. So I made sure that the gambit was covered to understand, is there a reason to the pattern? Or is it at random? Is it predictable? Why some and why not others? And to mostly get a view on what the perception is, even from the male side of the house.
Was there anything that surprised you?
From
when you were doing your work, so after you may have interviewed like 20 people, you're like, oh, all y'all said the same thing, or all you guys had this perspective here. And then when you hit 40 interviews, you're like, wait a minute, this is crazy. The fact that all of you guys think X, think this way.
Actually, it was just the opposite. It was starting to hear the stories among women, either some mentors or why I would admire certain women or why I would recognize and say, yep, that's the one, when you be at a room or in a corporate setting or at a social setting. And so now I said, okay, what's the pattern? And when you started hearing either from, I would say, mentors or friends, older and some younger, you start hearing the same story. So I'm saying, okay, what is it to this? So I have two other siblings who are women. And why me, not them? We behave very differently, even though we're all accomplished professionally. And so now when you start doing the interviews, you can start to tell the ones that are really born alphas, the ones that I will call augmented, that aren't born that way, but something happens in their life. They can go either more beta or they take a little bit more on an alpha persona, and those that just aren't at all. My mom is not alpha female. She's a strong person, but she's not an alpha female by any means. Mm-hmm. And so that started being, but you start hearing the same stories. The car types of cars, the colors, how they would pick their certain jewelry. I mean, it was astounding that all these things were coming to play. It was the same thing over and over again, where you could not dismay the pattern.
And so when you talk about alpha females, you talk about beta females, and even, men when that come into play. We're not saying, or are we saying that an alpha female is better than the beta female, or is it just a certain trait that she may exhibit?
So, right. And so I will say this, and I want women to understand this in full. There's no right or wrong. You are who you are. You're wired the way you're wired. The reason why this was done, it doesn't mean that these women are better than you. It doesn't mean that they're less than you. But there is a major difference. And what happens is that by society says what a definition of a woman is supposed to be. She's supposed to be, have certain characteristics. If not, she's not considered feminine. She's supposed to be a little bit more emotional, where you're right, these women, they have emotions, but they're definitely not emotional. They compartmentalize that. They take on a little bit more of a persona of they are the alpha male in a female form, and that freaks people out. So with that respect, it's getting people to understand these women have existed since time was time, since the beginning of time. And now here's who they are. The weird part is that they can be intimidating to others, whether that's beta men, who they attract a lot of.
Why? Why do they wait? First define beta. I don't want to take this too much on a tangent, but why does an alpha woman attract a beta man? Or is it vice versa? Is she attracted to a beta man?
No, beta men will attract, she will attract a beta male all day long. Okay. She will. And so I want to make this clear. I will say naturally born alphas, and I will say this, I mean true hardwired born alphas, you come out that way, you're going to die that way. Nothing's going to change you. They're few and far in between. I would say in a population, 10% at most. I'd say probably even less than that. But you'll find them throughout history and throughout time. They're the game changers. They're the risk takers. They're the trailblazers a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But they will, because of that strength, because of they don't, the men attract to the fact that they have the confidence, the fact that they have that strength factor. They're accomplished. They know what they want. They're not afraid to get it. And they're not about the drama. That's a big thing, right? So men attract to that. Now, what becomes in there, this is in the book when it comes to dating, is especially the beta men, because what will attract them, they will also start to disdain. Because now, a lot of times it is attractive, but now they want to harness it. Or some people want to try to control it or try to change it, and it's not going to happen. And that's where the contingent state come in. Because remember, and I'll say this to the men's side, player, she's a player just like you. You think you have her on? Look, she keeps her dating on a roster. She'll date more than one. Doesn't mean she's sleeping with them all, but she'll date more than one. Mm-hmm. She's not going to run after you. She's not. And again, you think that you're buying the bar. Guess what? She can buy the bar like you. You may ask her for a drink. She may buy you and your boys one and call it a day. She may not want to be bothered with you after that. Mm-hmm. She can go in and have a one-night stand and think nothing of it. Don't call the next day. And God help you if you're bad at it. Right?
So, I want to talk about a part of it in the book. I have a lot of questions, but a part of it in the book that kind of stood out for me was the high libido. And being able to be satisfied and not being ashamed of that. I've had conversations with women. I've heard stories of other women. I've spoken with doctors, OBGYN, and a part of that conversation, especially when you're talking about sexual health, is oftentimes, and when you talk about runs the gambit, I'm talking about women in church. I'm talking about women outside of church. I'm talking about women, from all walks of life in corporate America and service positions, like all these different. And what I hear is that there isn't a sense of freedom and openness when it comes to being satisfied and getting what they want and need in their relationship. Is that just something is that just a product of society, in your opinion, or is that more so a product of being an alpha woman?
So I'll say this, remember, society has always told women, and the society and even religion, right, through the course of time, that women are not to enjoy certain things of that nature, right? And even if you did, you're not supposed to talk about it, because a woman is supposed to keep a certain thing sacred, right? Mm-hmm. Remember, the alpha female, and there's a chapter in there called the conventional contradiction. Yeah. She throws all that stuff out the window. She runs by her own rules. So she's going to make sure that she's going to be satisfied. And her libido, what I started finding is, and this is actually real research, that doctors are now starting to see it, that if you look at your hand, most women's index finger and ring finger are the same length. Mm-hmm. And that goes to saying more estrogen. Right? Mm-hmm. You have more estrogen during your gestation period, right? Mm-hmm. While you're being formed. Most men has their ring finger longer than the index finger. And that means that's more testosterone. The larger the difference between the two means the more testosterone you have. The majority of alpha female women will have their ring finger longer, which means they're like that few 10% that have the more estrogen, which makes them a little bit more assertive, which makes their libido higher. So there is to me some sort of scientific formulation behind it. But the difference between an alpha female and other women is that they're not ashamed. Now, they're not going to put it out there and label themselves necessarily as a whore. That's not going to happen. They're going to handle their business still with the professionalism that where it's respected, but don't ever believe that they are going to follow the rules of what society or religion says.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just going to say, look, this is what I want. This is what satisfies me. I know what I want. And my libido says this.
So
this
do you think, yeah. So do you think that a woman, an alpha woman, can exist? Because to me, that's, I don't know. Because my question is like, so do you think an alpha woman can exist inside of a faith community and follow the quote unquote rules to which she may believe? And I'm going to speak from my perspective, but like if I'm in a relationship, so I consider myself a Christian, if I'm in a relationship with, you know, Christ, and a part of the requirement, so to speak, is like, hey, I need you to be obedient for these things. And I'm telling you to be obedient for these reasons because it'll protect you. Are you saying that an alpha female can't exist in that structure? And this isn't like specific to the Christian faith, but I know a lot of faiths, the Islamic faiths, have, you know, similar standards.
Right. So she can exist. She can exist, but remember, that's her taking up on her own choice. It is not her conforming to because religion said to do it. Mm-hmm. So she's spiritual, but it doesn't mean she goes by religious rules. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm Catholic. Right. Mm-hmm. So same thing with Catholic. Right. No premarital sex. Catholic, you know, you're not supposed to use birth control in the Catholic religion. Mm-hmm. Right. Hey, that goes way out the rule book in a lot of cases. So again, it's where she's spiritual. And if she decides that's her decision for herself, mm-hmm. then that's fine. But just keep in mind that she's not doing it because someone told her to do it or there was some sort of commandment, you know, to do it. It's because she chose to live her life that way. And I think that's the inherent difference. She's not going to be shamed into it. And even those, and there's a big chapter in the book about that, people that are raised in a heavily I'll say Southern Baptist, heavily Christian environment, mm-hmm. where they were raised to suppress it. And eventually, it never really gets suppressed. They kind of morph and become a chameleon to survive. Mm-hmm. But eventually it comes out. And when that floodgate breaks loose, look out.
And so when you say shamed, I think I get your point a little bit more because I don't know. If as I was reading your book and you talk about, you know, being an alpha female and some of the qualities and some of the traits, I said, yep. And I said, no, that's not me. I don't think I'll be able to do that. But when you talk about that, I know my walk with God has been a lot of like, yep, you got to explain this to me. I need to understand why this, and this. And it started off with, yep, this is what my parents told me. This is what my parents followed. But it was a point in time where I had to know for myself why I was doing this, why I decided to follow this, and why I'm keeping this. But again, this is me not knowing for sure if I would be considered, you know, an alpha female. And I also believe that your spiritual walk is continuous and it shifts and it changes or whatever it may be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, she's definitely spiritual, mm-hmm. but it doesn't mean she conforms to religion. So remember, religion is still heavily handed by man, right?
Yep.
So she's spiritual and she has her own spiritual, and even in the book, it addresses because of different cultures. So whatever your religious, spiritual, cultural belief is, mm-hmm. but you also have these same women that are now defining norms. And one of the big ones that was in there was where it gets talked about the premarital, the arranged marriage in a culture.
Yeah.
Caste system. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you had a person that literally defied, you know, hundreds of years of what they firmly believed from a religious standpoint and a cultural standpoint to defy to get what she needed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? To the point of having to escape mm-hmm. and having an escape plan to get back to the States to marry her fiance. And so these are the women that are willing to take that risk. They're going to bet the farm all day long. They're going to do it. And so whereas most people are going to say, well, geez, you know, why would they do that? Or why would you risk that shame? Why would you risk that embarrassment? They're going to do it anyway. And like I said, they've been around. They've been around since Eve. Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about religion? Eve was number one. You know, you got to be a bad woman to get a man to defy God and eat the apple.
It's all your fault, Eve, while we're doing all this. But
you know, she was supposed to be the weaker of one because she came from his rib, right? So when you think about it, who really had the power in that one?
Yeah. She was supposed to be the weaker one,
absolutely,
by what people say. But are you a alpha female?
And I never try to use the term as far as myself. If I had to classify myself, probably so. I would definitely say, yes, that would be, the case of it. Sorry, I was trying to fix this.
No, you're fine.
Okay. What I would say is that I never realized what the term was for me at first, but now looking on it, I had to realize why I was different. I will say that I did notice I was different among my siblings, different among female friends, which I didn't have many of. I still don't keep a lot of female friends, just because of the drama and because they don't get it. And so another alpha female will get it. There's even that, what I call the alpha code, that I found to be very interesting, because when I would ask this question, the true alphas always knew the code. They could spit, and they didn't even have to know each other, but they could spit it out in an instant.
I want to know the code, but I'm gonna back up. I mean, I want to see if I passed the test, but I want to back up a little bit, because I want to push back a little bit on, or I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, because when a woman says she doesn't have a lot of female friends, because from my perspective, like, being in a nurturing environment with other women who get me at the end of the day, and it could be related to, there aren't a lot of alpha females around, in terms of connecting or time, because you said they're busy. They tend to be the leaders, the CEOs, always like a step ahead. So when you say that, what do you really mean by that? Like when it comes to having female friends or not having a lot of female friends?
So the main thing is, remember, they are, and how I describe an alpha female is, truly think about an alpha male in a female form. So she thinks a lot. You talk about, the Steve Harvey book, Think Like a Man, Act Like a Lady. She is the epitome of what that book was supposed to be. She thinks like a man. So whereas the rest of the girls are wanting to get out there and play Barbies, she's not about there playing Barbies and tea sets. That's not her thing. And if she's going to play Barbie's going to have a whole nother status level than what people would ever believe. Mm-hmm. Whereas the girls are more gossip and drama field. That's not her thing. She's out on the court. She's out roughhousing with the boys. She's kind of the tomboy, more or less, most of the times. So a lot of times she's not interested in those things. She may be drawn to more technical or male-oriented, what's considered more male-oriented type toys. She's not going to be the typical girl. If you're looking for her to play nurturer, tea set, frilly, that's not it. Now, is she still feminine? Sure. But she's not going to be drawn to that. She's not going to have time for the drama. And I use a certain term, the SBS term, in the book. And so, because she's not going to have time for that, what I call the simple BI stuff. Mm-hmm. She's not. And so, which makes that the women think now, okay, why? Because now she's going to shy away from that. And they're going to say, okay, well, she's not about that. So we know we can't talk to her about that. So she's going to be drawn to the guys, because the guys less drama. She likes sports, right? And she can make those connections. Now, she can move in both worlds. She can. But at the end of the day, it's less drama free. And at the end of the day, she just finds that connection, and she's not as emotional. Like I said, she's not emotional. She has emotions, but she's not emotional. So that kills a lot of the other side of that drama. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times she's the ones her girlfriends will go to for advice. She will, she'll care about him. She will protect her pack. She will. She's going to protect her close circle. But she also comes with a set of rules. I'm not going to lie. They are high maintenance. And they, as alpha females, they demand or expect even a lot of their circle around them. Which a lot of times, I will say a lot of times, women are their own worst enemy. If that makes sense to you.
In that space, like, I get expectations, and if you have high expectations for others, that can definitely be the beginning of the severing or the crumbling of the foundation of any relationship when someone doesn't meet those expectations. Why did you write this book? Because it wasn't just like, oh, just let me do this. It had to come from a heart space.
Absolutely. So, it started off as a discussion. I just remember one day, just like I said again, was sitting at work and was having a conversation, I think either with a mentor of mine or just starting to see a pattern. And I started thinking about it. Why certain ones and why not others. Why certain ones stand out when they walk in the room and you recognize it inherently, and why not others. And so end up chatting up with a friend, someone you know, and we started really having this conversation. But the main purpose of this was to bring this underground conversation to the forefront. And I personally just got so tired of seeing it portrayed so poorly in movies and in books and in every fashion and form. And so I said, you know what? It is time for someone to really put the conversation out there, put it out there what it really is, and spark the real conversation that's supposed to be had. And the feedback has been great, because a lot of times it's been, wow, I didn't really know this is what it was about. From the women who are true alpha females, they're saying, thank you. Somebody finally said it. And I think it's enlightened a lot of guys, and it's enlightened a lot of other women too, of saying, well, I may not be completely fully alpha, but I may have some of these traits. Now, I feel I can be okay with that. And now how do I utilize that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it was a passion. It was literally, I could not sleep at night until this book was done.
What's some of the, I know you touched on it, but has there been any any conversation, any, note, any, direct message, smoke in a bottle signal or whatever sent to you that stood out?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, I've gotten some direct messaging from some of the men saying, oh my God, I can't put the book down. Mm-hmm. It has literally freaked them out. In the first interview, literally every time a man was interviewed, no less than 24 hours, phones were blowing up, because the interview was such that because they always thought, yeah, I know what an alpha female is. And they always realized they really didn't know what they thought they had married, what they thought they were calling it, what they thought it was about. It more than likely wasn't. So now it had them rethinking everything, every decision that they had made, right? So now you had these guys staying up at night thinking about this. From the women's side, I even got some messages about them being okay in their sexual freedom, that said, your book has inspired me to be okay that I have this high libido, or there's some things I want sexually that I didn't think I could say before. Mm-hmm. Or I didn't think I could go out and get before. And now, because of this book, I'm okay to do it. Now, that wasn't the actual intent, mind you.
You out here making babies with this book.
Absolutely. But I mean, again, it was women saying, it's, I'm glad someone said it, because now I have a reason. But the biggest part is people are starting to realize they're the reasoning behind it, the reasons of why she thinks this way, the reason why she moves this way. Mm-hmm. So people that said, I knew that I was different, they're starting to get the explanation of, you know what, this is why I think this way. This is why I move this way. Mm-hmm. This is why I started dating these people and I realized these relationships weren't working. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or this is where, again, you take it on yourself as alpha female. Here's where I went wrong, but here's where I went well. And so it's been very interesting to get that feedback from both men and women. And I can see it on now. I started capturing on I would say young ladies. I've seen it on as young as about 4 or 5 years old.
You say it like you see, how they say in the black church, I see the anointing on you. Like, I feel like when you say I see it on you, I see it on you, baby. I see it
absolutely, on you. Absolutely. I'm telling you, when you start to notice, and it's just seriously just watching people. I saw it on a 4 or 5 year old in a mall. Stopped the mother. The mother asked me what I did. She had an older sister, but it was the little one. Mm-hmm. And I started describing to the mother. I said, is she doing this? And the mother just stopped and looked at me and said, I gave her a few nuggets. This is how she behaves. This is what goes on in the household. Here's how she's thinking. Here's how she's moving. Mm-hmm. And the mother just stopped and said, oh my God, are you living with me? You know her to a T. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is why. I saw it on a young lady that was about 15 years old instantly, just like the same way. And she was just sitting down in the corner by herself. But it was the presence she brought.
And the goal when you see these things, when you see these qualities, when you see these traits, is to cultivate it, as opposed to what has happened in the past, as opposed to what society is telling these women about how you feel about yourself, about how you think, about how you interact. When you are able to, set emotions aside, or when you don't have time for what you call the simple stuff, the simple conversations that, let's get it done, whatever that it is. And it's to cultivate that, so that part of them isn't necessarily, squashed, done away with, that they feel weird, they feel odd.
Absolutely. And the main thing is when she's coming into her own, and this gets talked about in the book early on, when you hit that puberty stage and you're getting into college, it's starting to learn how to control it, how to harness it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's high maintenance even for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the aha moments is for what I call the authentically born alpha females. The one question I had for a lot of them was if you could turn it off. And every single time, all of them said yes. There's comes a point in time, sometimes you wish you could turn it off and you just can't. Mm-hmm. And you can't because it's high maintenance even for them. You can't turn it off. You can't turn it off when you sleep. You just, that's the way you
What
run.
do you mean you can't turn it off when you sleep? Give me an example.
So it's to the point to where, as I'll say this, these women are very calculating. So even though you may go to sleep, she's doing business and calculating in her sleep. They're the chess players in their sleep. Their mind is always going about the next move, the next positioning, what's going on, how they're going to save their family or their friends from themselves, right? The next bit of advice, the next move. And it's more or less even the next expectation on themselves. What is their next challenge? What is their next goal that they have to hit?
Yeah, good stuff. I am excited to continue this conversation about the alpha female, and I know you can pick up the book on Amazon. Again, it's
absolutely.
CC, yes. CC Lyons, Alpha Females Unleashed from the Boardroom to the Bedroom. You can pick it up now. Probably what we want to do is also have a live chat about this. So get your questions ready. Please order the book. You can download it tonight, today, right now, on Kindle and read through the book probably in an hour or so. And really get some good information on that. So thank you so much, CC, for being on. I'm excited to continue this conversation live next week.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of aha moments for those. And again, I'm looking for men and women to chime in on the live, because I think it's going to be a lot of aha moments when they get to parts of the book about not feeling pressured, why these women don't have kids, or why they don't have one, why they may not get married ever, and they're okay with that, or why they may, get married later on in life, why that societal pressure doesn't succumb to them, and how their relationships, the relationships they have, can turn stalkerish to deadly. Because some of these beta guys, and some that may look alpha at first, but really aren't alpha. And by the time you find, when you figure it out, it becomes a little deadly. So all of that is in the book, and I hope people the main thing was to bring the awareness to the forefront. Bring the awareness to the forefront and put it out there. So I'm looking forward to the next segment. I'm looking forward to everyone's questions, and I wish we could say use a little bit more expletives, but that's okay.
No cussing!
We could really get into it. I forgot this is Good Girl.
But listen, Good Girl Radio, every good girl has a confession. I like to keep it real, but
absolutely.
I
understand. I completely understand. But
you
know what? It's okay, because the book uses some words in there that I hope people will laugh at.
I know I did too. I was flipping pages and I said, "Oh, okay."
Right, the DOD chick. Everybody knows they've run into the DOD chick. See, that's one of the women that can't be a part of the crew. The DOD chick. And for those who are going to look at this, they're going to say, "What's the DOD?" You got to read the book to find out.
Read the book. All right. Thank you so much. This is goodgirlradio.com. Thanks so much for watching or listening to Good Girl Radio. Make sure you head to our website, goodgirlradio.com, if you are not already there, and you are following us on all social media sites. We're right at the top. You can like us on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're on Twitter. Make sure you have subscribed to us on YouTube. One of our videos.
There are not so many single women out here.
Right here. Also, make sure you are following us on the gram. Last but certainly not least, we cannot do this alone. So, if you like what you see or what you heard, we need your support.